These games shot for the moon, missed, and landed on this list. Hey guys, I'm Ricky with WatchMojo, and today we'll be counting down our top 10 games that failed because they were too ambitious. Think you know video games? More specifically, terrible video games? Click below to sign in with your Google or Facebook account and take the new trivia quiz on WatchMojo.com. Follow the link in the description. Today, we're looking at games that attempted to revolutionize the industry only to fall short financially and critically. Do note that we're not counting cancelled games, so no Scalebound or Star Wars 1313. Alright, on to failure. Number 10. Too Human.
We of the World Tree shall not interfere. The way is open.
A mix of cyberpunk and Norse mythology, Too Human was envisioned as an epic first installment in a trilogy. What we got, though, was a thoroughly mediocre action RPG with an unintuitive control scheme.
Monsters tell stories of me to frighten their children.
Much of this can be blamed on the long development time, which saw the game move between 3 different consoles and several engines. The last of these signed the death blow for Too Human though, as the developers, Silicon Knights, sued Epic Games, whose Unreal 3 engine they had previously used, only for Epic to countersue them, which led to Silicon Knights' dissolution and copies of Too Human being ordered destroyed for still containing Unreal code. To err is human, and the folks at Silicon Knights were too human. God, who writes this? Number 9. Shenmue. Critically, Shenmue was incredibly well received and often hailed as the best game on the Dreamcast. The game gave a lot of attention to detail to its world, long before Red Dead Redemption 2 tried that. Not to mention how influential its gameplay was, since it helped give rise to quick-time events in video games, for better or for worse.
Damn, you're pretty tough.
However, Shenmue's budget came at a hefty $70 million, and the game didn't even come close to recuperating that amount at retail. The same happened with its sequel, and the pair of games are often cited as a major factor as to why the Dreamcast died.
Are you alright?
I'm just fine and dandy.
Number 8. Fallout 76. Bethesda games are not without their faults, but they generally succeed for the most part. Fallout 76 is the rare exception. The developer's first online multiplayer game, Fallout 76 had plenty of interesting ideas, like no human NPCs, base building, and the largest map out of any Fallout game. But in execution, most of the game's attempts at new ideas fell flat. The game was buggy and prone to crashing at launch, and the big world was often devoid of much in the way of content. We can only hope the fallout of 76's failure doesn't damage Bethesda too badly and that they learn from their mistakes. Number 7. Fable.
I have given you a basic pack of supplies. It'll be enough for a while. Now there's a whole world for you to explore.
It's fitting that a game called Fable failed in its ambitions because of some tall tales. Peter Molyneux managed to get gamers everywhere incredibly hyped for Fable before its release by calling it the greatest video game ever made.
Well, over the last year, we've been, trying to fulfill the promises that we set at last E3. Yeah.
So, although the game sold well and received decent critical reception, many gamers were still disappointed as their expectations were sky high and the result was a fairly tall building, or at least a hack-and-slash RPG with some innovative elements. We're all for hype, but it should be tempered by realistic expectations.
She said a guild puppet would come, and here you are. My blades have been dying to meet you.
Number 6. Outcast.
You want to bring a Twanha into your life? How nice!
Yeah, ain't I a softie? How much?
It may have come out decades ago, but Outcast is a surprisingly modern game, with intelligent AI, great graphics for the time, and some unique and inventive features, such as a sound/equipment-based save system. Despite how innovative Outcast was though, it failed to make a splash when it was released near the turn of the millennium.
Material detected.
While it was critically well received, it was not commercially successful and was quickly forgotten about. I mean, how many of you had really heard of it before now? Outcast takes place on an alien world in a parallel universe, and we just wish we could have experienced a world where it had gone on to influence the industry for the better.
You really get emotional about this, don't you?
Number 5. Daikatana.
Legend has it that the Daikatana contains many secrets.
For a game whose name loosely translates to Big Sword, Daikatana was far from the biggest thing around. Led by John Romero, who was involved with industry-defining games like Doom and Quake, Daikatana had plenty to live up to. Although the game had an ambitious plot, voice acting, and AI partners years before they became common, much of it was poorly implemented, thanks to 3 years of development hell, changing engines, and other behind-the-scenes difficulties.
Too bad for you!
The hype and controversy surrounding Romero's new company's first game, thanks to the man's rockstar mentality and an infamous ad campaign, only increased the disappointment upon its release.
Neat story, Toshiro, but I'm not quite sure I buy it.
Number 4. Jurassic Park Trespasser.
He really did it. Now that is an incredible smell.
Jurassic Park is a name that inspires both fear and majesty all at once. Trespasser does not live up to its franchise, or either of those feelings.
Welcome to the city of tomorrow.
On paper, the game has everything going for it. Steven Spielberg was involved in development, and it included ambitious features, such as a naturalistic style with no HUD and cutting-edge physics that influenced many later games. Unfortunately, even with the best computers of the day, running the game proved taxing and buggy, while the game's attempts at realism proved unintuitive. Plus, there were hardly any dinosaurs. Number 3. APB AllPoints Bulletin. Although it was led by David Jones, who worked on the original Grand Theft Auto titles, APB AllPoints Bulletin didn't quite manage the success of that infamous crime franchise. An online multiplayer game, APB allows for players to essentially act out cops and robbers style gameplay with each other as either enforcers or criminals. While cool in concept, the execution didn't live up to it, with the finished product feeling unfinished. The company that made it going bankrupt didn't help either. Despite being relaunched as a free-to-play game and getting recent ports to the Xbox One and PS4, APB's initial failure was still put out like one of those police notices over the radio. Number 2. Spore. Beginning its life as Sim Everything, Spore allows players to develop life from a single-celled organism and evolve it into a space-traveling intelligent species. Conceptually, it doesn't get much more ambitious than that, but once again, implementation marred on an otherwise great idea. The initial phases of the life cycle were criticized as lacking gameplay depth or good controls, and a controversy regarding the game's DRM made it one of the most pirated games ever made. Still, we have to say, the character creator is a lot of fun to use. Before we get to our top pick, here are a few honorable mentions.
Welcome. Thank you for answering my summons. I am Kelvin, called Blackstaff.
Cleaning almost complete, Guardian.
Well, it's about f***ing time.
It's down to you and me, you one-eyed freak.
Number 1. No Man's Sky. Well, who didn't see this one coming? When you reach for the sky, sometimes you fall back down to Earth. Developer Hello Games envisioned a massive universe of randomly generated worlds and cultures, where players could meet up with one another, get into space battles, explore worlds, and many other things besides. We know because that grinning Sean Murray promised all of these things repeatedly.
Will you be able to play with your friends? Yeah.
What players got was a big empty universe full of repetitive planets, dull gameplay, and an ending that let us do it all over again. Although the game has received updates and has its diehard fans, the vast majority of people were let down by everything No Man's Sky was promised to be from the start. Well, at least they tried. Guys, thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, make sure to like and subscribe to WatchMojo, and for more video game content, click these floating boxes right here.